Well, our great buddy Andrew Wilson has gone back to the microphone, and he has kind of explained once again some more stuff actually about why they think that FC 25 was underperforming, and we don't know if it still is, of course, but at least was underperforming. And he basically confirmed one big piece of the puzzle that we were kind of waiting to see if that was true or not, and then Andrew Wilson did confirm it himself. So if you guys would like to buy coins, you can go to mmoxp.com. There will be a link in the description. They are the cheapest and safest option. You can use my code JFC at checkout for a 5% discount. We'll talk about that today. Obviously, the Maradona Evo came out. You've seen this by now. It's 500,000 coins or 1,000 FC points. It's not cheap. And I was going to talk about today too, combining with all of the paid Evos right now. It seems like there's about as many paid as there are free Evos. I did see a couple people on Reddit, actually, I believe it was Reddit, talk about how are EA trying to phase out the transfer market here eventually? Is it going to be a thing of the past come a couple years? Is this kind of going to be their new monetization strategy and basically just say fuck the market? It's an interesting topic I may dive into on the second channel more than this one. I don't really fully think that will happen, but it could be. We've got some licensing stuff to talk about, more so rumors, but it is sort of an interesting news point to talk about, and also some big SBCs still we haven't seen yet, so we'll go and talk about those too. And the grinders are getting rewarded right now big time. Super daily bronze upgrade, grassroots grind, repeatable 50 times a day, 6 commons, 3 rare gold players for just 11 bronzes. This right here is probably the best grind upgrade in FIFA history, I would say. Now, the funny thing is that the menu grind itself right now isn't all that, because obviously the League SBCs are not what they used to be, and there's something, at least they're at least something you can do constantly, but they just, you guys know pack weight nowadays. A small prime gold players pack is not what it used to be. A small rare gold players pack is not what it used to be, and same with the prime pack too, right? Yeah, you can get some all right players, some low end fodder maybe, just it's not what it used to be, obviously. So my one complaint is a hardcore menu grinder myself, or I would be if it was really good. I would legitimately sink hours into this a day if it was very good. Not to be too negative about this at all, but I think that leading up to the end product, it's probably one of the better menu grinds we've seen. Just to take those goals into what we kind of got to wait for player picks maybe coming out tomorrow or whatever upgrade comes out, but just the end product League SBC wise being this, it's been the same for 3 fucking years, guys. Like, we need just any little difference would be cool. You know, give a 25 completion reward for this, or a 50 completion, or, you know, so you can give it something crazy, just some extra packs in there, maybe a player or two, like some fodder potentially. There's so much more they could do with this. They just don't really, because they don't think they care. But anyway, the promo seems pretty cool so far. I mean, I love these Evos they're dropping. This grassroots greats one right here, Tiki Taka Plus. This does, by the way, work with a player who already has a playstyle plus. This Tiki Taka can be their second playstyle plus, so keep that in mind here. What you can really do, if you have the curl it in Evo still, you can apply the Tiki Taka Plus onto a player before you put them into the curl it in, and instead of giving them dead ball plus for a second one, you can give, let's just say, my Sandro Tonali, give him incisive and then Tiki Taka, then put him into the Evo and give him the stat boost. So that's something you guys can do there and throw that into some Evos. Also, though, EA lied to us because the Champions Finals play, I think it's, yeah, play 6 matches for a center mid holding plus player, and it also gives them a CDM position, which I think is really cool. And I was really hyped about this, except that it doesn't say max rating here whatsoever, except it is max 89. So I was really hyped to go out and give my Patrick Vieira CDM, because Vieira, for some reason, can't play CDM in this game. My base Vieira, that is. Turns out it's max 89, and I can't give it to him. So EA misled us there 100%, but I just love the fact that my Jeffrey Schlupp Evo here can actually get Tiki Taka Plus now. I love that we can make our own cards, kind of. I think with stat caps being on Evos, cards look very similar, right? It's kind of the main critique with stat caps on Evos. I think more playstyle stuff would help with that, would help with the more originality, because there will be a lot more random cards with more random playstyle pluses. So I don't know, random little content talk there, but okay, let's get on to the title of the video now. And most of you guys are well aware by now that EA did not reach their financial expectations for their past financial quarter, right? That's kind of old news by this point, but Andrew Wilson, the CEO of EA, keeps talking about it because he kind of feels the need to explain why, because it's so rare for this to happen. And we got some new quotes again here on kind of why it happened, and it's interesting. So if you want to read through the whole thing, you can pause the video and stuff. I'm going to read through just kind of the interesting stuff that I think you guys are going to find interesting. So, okay, let's start with now in a presentation following the release of their earnings report, CEO Andrew Wilson explained in more detail what went wrong with FC25 and the steps taken to remedy the situation. This paragraph we knew already. It started off apparently like high quality, stable launch, pre-orders, engagement, monetization all up, which interesting. He does say monetization was up. Like he's confirming that basically. It wasn't just player count. It was literally they were making more money this year to start, but they failed to continue this momentum. And he says down here, there were two main contributing factors to this, and it was soft top of funnel acquisition, which means a lower number of newcomers joining the series for the first time, and a lapsed engagement later in the quarter, with players losing interest in the game sooner than usual. So in all the quotes we've seen so far, they didn't really specify if it was a monetization thing or if it was a straight up less player count thing. But this right here does say that it for sure was a player count issue, at least to a certain degree, right? So we did have a lower player count, and that does matter to them. He also explained that more players than expected continued to play FC24 instead of moving over to FC25, leading to slower growth in the newer game. Yeah, it turns out that the FIFA fatigue, or FC fatigue you can call it now, I guess, of a new game every single year, if you're not a hardcore player, is gonna catch up eventually. And more people than they thought kept playing the old game, even though they turn off all support for it, of course, because they don't, there's no new content on the old games, obviously. So even despite that, people kept playing it. While early acquisitions started out strong, they always will. There's always going to be that same hardcore player base of pre-orders, I'm sure, every single year. Post-launch acquisition cohorts waited longer in the cycle to apply the new title, as many stayed in prior iterations, he said. In a word salad vomit soup, it just meant, hey, they didn't fucking buy the new game. Combined players in our full HD experiences were flat year over year. This mix shift and slower new player acquisition account for about half of a title's underperformance versus expectations. Softer than expected engagement made up most of the rest. So according to Andrew Wilson, half of the underperformance versus expectations was a mix shift and slower new player acquisition, which is interesting because apparently that was worth half of the underperformance, was people not transitioning to the new game. That's a lot of money to be losing off of that, if that's true. I don't know how much I believe that, but of course I would just be speculating, and he's clearly saying that that's the case. And then the other half, or most of the rest, I should say, is what they say, was softer than expected engagement. So basically just not people engaging with the game at all, so player counts being low was a big part of it. And then this is a very interesting one too. Wilson says engagement dropped this year because new players were unhappy with the gameplay changes made, to the extent that the company had to take action by launching a gameplay refresh update last month, which massively overhauled core gameplay systems. So apparently EA think that the majority of the reason why people didn't like the game was because of the gameplay, which is interesting. Do you guys think that is the case? Because I personally would probably say that is mostly the case. The only issue is the actual gameplay problems. I don't know if they know how to fix them, but I do wonder how they came to this conclusion, right? Because he says firmly that engagement dropped this year because players were unhappy with the gameplay changes made. So I wonder why he thinks that, if the numbers like in the back end show that just games weren't being played like they used to be. And getting close to the end here, we're constantly tuning the game to drive a competitive and engaging experience. This year, after a number of key changes to gameplay, we started to hear more feedback than usual around specific issues with balance from one of our most competitive cohorts. This resulted in lower than expected engagement into the end of the quarter. So I don't think Andrew Wilson probably plays the game very much, so he kind of just said once again kind of like a word soup, where we started to hear more feedback than usual, which more feedback than usual, I don't think that's the case, but whatever, around specific issues with balance. So I don't know what that even means. Does he mean like literal balance within the gameplay, or balance within time to put into game modes, or what balance is he talking about here? I mean, we have no idea, but whatever it was, he said resulted in lower engagement in the quarter. We took the time to listen and validate what we were hearing and implemented some significant changes to both the gameplay experience and corresponding progression and rewards in a large update that went live for players on January 16th. So he does kind of say here that the progression and rewards were a pretty big part of it too, so maybe that was a problem for people not playing the game anymore. He does say these actions were a success, as we've seen a strong response to the title update in our event. We already talked about this, 2 million more players, whatever, that's a pretty crazy number. And the last real interesting point is this. Wilson says that had it suffered a single setback in terms of either player acquisition or engagement, it wouldn't have had a material impact on its quarter, but because both were happening at the same time, EA had to take action. So they kind of go hand in hand. What he he's saying there is if players actually bought the game like we thought they would and moved from 24 to 25, if they did buy it like we thought they did and engagement was still low, it probably wouldn't have mattered at the end of the day because we had just a single setback. But both setbacks were the problem, which I guess they both go hand in hand though, because if more players transitioned from 24, you'd have higher engagement because there's just more players that have bought the game. So they kind of go hand in hand there. I don't really get that whole paragraph, but anyways, the last sentence, you know what he's got to do. To put this year in perspective, fiscal year 2025 is still expected to be the second biggest year for the franchise. So he's got to end it on the note of like, hey, don't sell your shares, dumbasses. We're making fucking billions around here. But anyway, that's that. He basically confirms that it was lower player counts. We didn't really know for sure. We thought it was probably a mix of lower player counts and monetization. But he does say up here, monetization was up to start the game actually, but then the player counts went way lower than we thought they were going to be. So that's pretty much that. But okay, on to some licensing news that is kind of interesting, but also doesn't really mean that much because the Brazilian leagues on many people's minds right now is ever coming back into FC. They're notoriously hard to work with. You have to go to each individual player to actually work through licensing rights for. If you're wondering why it hasn't been in the game for 10 years, that's why. And there was this today that Brazilian clubs are issuing notices to modders out there for FC 25 or PES 2021 who make Brazilian league mods. And most of the modders do make them paid mods, which is never a smart idea. If you're gonna make paid mods, you're kind of asking for it. So the Brazilian league's coming in saying, hey, you can't do this. And free mods, I think, are fine. Just the ones that are paid, I believe they're like, hey, we're gonna sue you if you don't stop selling these. And some people thought, oh my God, does this mean that, you know, they're cracking down on licensing? Is that because they've signed with somebody? Like they're cracking down on this now because they're gonna actually be in the game soon. I'm gonna tell you now, there's a 1% chance that's the case. I think that the Brazilian league, the Brazilian Federation has always been very stingy with licensing, and that's what this shows more than anything. It's just, hey, it's gonna be so hard to work with them. EA have the money to do it. They could definitely, if they really wanted to drop just massive amounts of dough, they could definitely do it. It just, do they want to do that? Do they think it's worth it? I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of the news that went around today. The big modding communities, this was a big news, and just people thinking that, oh, is this gonna be cracking down because they're coming shit? Like I don't think so myself. But okay, here's actually a better image here. We've actually seen all these SBCs. The player of the month's ignored that. I don't know what he's really thinking with that. But we've seen all 4 of these and not Mendy so far. These are not official stats there. I can show you them actually right now, right here. And this already is the last SBC we've not seen yet. So we have days to go with no SBC leaks. So I'm assuming we'll see more as time goes on, but literally we're 2 days in and all those SBC leaks that we saw are already out apart from Mendy. So we're kind of just waiting on him now. But okay, on to the market. If you guys want to know what's going to happen, if we see a promo with good evos ever, the market's going to drop. There are so many avenues for the market to go down at all times this year. Big promos, new SBCs, good evos. It doesn't matter what, it can all go down. And it's pretty crazy to see this, but the market really hasn't substantially risen in over, I mean, how long ago? I guess probably over a month now. This is why that debate started where it's like the trading game is so much less than it used to be. And was that intentional from EA, or was that more of a fatigue thing from players? Like trading isn't really interesting anymore to people. It's hard to say, but people who like trade constantly, many of them have stopped because it just isn't as fun as it used to be. If you want one of these grassroots grades cards like Vardy, just keep letting them drop. 126. He's been up, I mean, yeah, he's literally 2+ mil for the first day he was out. Now literally just being panic sold basically down to 1.2. He's actually, this is like panic selling territory right here. I don't know why, but Vardy looks crazy. If you want to buy one, I'm just gonna wait all the way till like Thursday. I'm not gonna buy one right now. We have evos coming out almost every day at this point. Mendy's gonna kill left backs. If you have a left back right now, get him out. I'm talking, I guess, where's like that team of the year Carlos? I was thinking of him and like any of the Karchawi, Grimaldos, just get him out. I don't care if they're even down right now. When Mendy drops, there's no way they don't drop. Even if Mendy's like 1.5 mil, people are saving up shit to go and get that Mendy. I guarantee you that Mendy will make left backs drop. I was just reading through these. At Jamie Vardy is the GOAT. How dare you compare Timo Werner with a V to Jamie Vardy? Listen, I said sorry when I did it. Okay, I knew the second I did it, it was disrespectful. And here comes Jamie Vardy's the GOAT in the comments. And I realized like half my comment section was yelling at me because I say Maradona and it's not, it's Maradona. And I said it once again in today's video, and I apologize. And I'll fix it. And I said, by the way, hide your kids, hide your wives. Mendy is coming. And I didn't even realize, like, people in the comments were like, no, that was Benjamin Mendy, right? I didn't even realize what I was saying when I did that. I didn't even think of Benjamin Mendy. I just thought of Ferland Mendy, you know, giving everyone nightmares because you can't fucking pass the guy. I was not thinking about Benjamin Mendy there. The less said about that, the better. Wings of Age of Consent, which Christ almighty, these that's an insane name still. 26 promo packs in the store is absolutely absurd. I wonder what the total cost would be if you were to buy 1 pack of each with FC points, like a grand or something. And yes, that's exactly what it would be something like that. And this is why, once again, not to whataboutism everything, like, oh, what about this or what about that when we talk about any problem out there, but a free Maradona, that's not the top of the concerns we should have. Honestly, I don't think so. I think we have gameplay that stinks. I think we have a store driven system that is concerning for the long term. I think right now we're in a bit of in a good place because of the whole revenue stuff. They're giving back a bit to the community right now. How far will this go? How many store packs will be in there at a time? How good will the store packs get? They get seemingly better every single year. Last year was the first year they really went and said, okay, we're going all in with these, and they're getting slightly better this year, just a little bit. What do we see next year? What do we see in FC 28? What do store packs look like then? That is a real, that's a big issue that, of course, it could not be a problem, but I figure that, you know, they have to make more. Every year, they got to make more money, more money, more money. How do they do that? If the amount of players playing the game doesn't really increase that much, it maybe stays the exact same. You got to make more money, though. What do? Well, then you got to make sure every user ends up spending more money. And we're going to start seeing some crazy shit, even crazier than what we've seen already. So I do think some part of that maybe, though, is EA just trying to make as much money as they can before it cracks down one day, before the government says, hey, wait a minute, this is gambling and we have to make this like age restricted. Because once that happens, not looking good. They're going to see a big drop, and that'll be really telling when you would see the revenue drop they get when they start to age restrict it, and then think about how many people under 18, how many of those billions were under 18. Was it maybe only 10%? Was it 30%? Was it 2%? Like, I don't know, but it's probably a good substantial number there of people who just shouldn't be gambling, right? But anyway, okay. Hey, thank you for listening and being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Love you all. Peace.